A once shabby Manchester street continues to transform, now with plans for a digital campus and a new park. But what kind of plants are these? No. 1 Port Street topped out in November. What is topping out? A major new tower is planned here, but will these houses have to go? Time to say goodbye to this South Manchester shopping centre and office building. What ceremony is taking place here? On Rochdale Road, from place of worship to place of residence and wellness. Salford Central, then, now and soon. What are your favourite Manchester buildings, and why are people not so keen on mine? A new canalside residence is to be built, but not for millionaires. In Spinningfields, Paddington Bear is keeping an eye on a project for me. What is it? And what are BREEAM, BB Gold and DDDG? All in a slightly longer Aid and Eyewitness based around 12 projects that were in the media during Q4 2024. Well, it's a cold, drizzly Friday the 20th of December 2024 and I'm here by Piccadilly Station. I'm going to have a walk around the centre of Manchester and visit some of the projects that have been in the news over the last couple of months. It's a similar video to the one I did on Liverpool, where I've picked out some important news on developments in the city. Combining it with my walk, which I like to do most days. So let's see what we can find. This behind me is the Fairfax construction site. It hasn't actually been in the news, but construction is proceeding. It offers 488 homes. Actually, I don't think homes is the right word to use here. More in my mini editorial later. In a previous video, I noticed this site on Store Street next to the canal aqueduct was empty, but now building work is going ahead, as permission has been granted for this residential project to be named Outram in honour of the engineer who built the viaduct in 1798. There will be two buildings, one at street level facing onto Store Street and the other facing onto the Ashton Canal, with a total of 69 units, 66 apartments and 3 townhouses. The developer is Expert City and it's BTR, Build to Rent. It will be built by Big Red Construction, sister company of Expert City. Now we are on Great Ancoats Street, and this site harks back to earlier times. A traditional red brick, low-rise commercial building with a surface car park. This is Stockton's furniture store. The whole site was put up for sale in 2020. The furniture store will move to a new location. In late October 2024, it was announced that a joint venture will now launch a consultation on a big project featuring 758 apartments in 2 buildings, 47 and 20 stories. Simpson Huff and Reform landscape architects are working on the design. In this area, traditionally, we had a mixture of service industries, automotive, metalworks, die casting, machine hire, but the area is becoming more and more residential. The local SRF, Strategic Renovation Framework, aims to completely transform the area. Just across Great Ancoats Street, this bleak-looking empty patch of ground was Ancoats Retail Park. It's going to become a digital campus with 900,000 square feet of offices. Proposers are the Government Property Agency. A planning application was submitted in late 2024. There are 2 office blocks, 8 and 7 stories. An extra 2 stories could be added for service plant. Service plants? No, service plant. Machinery for a building's heating, cooling, power and other services. Oh yes, I've driven in and out of this gate many times on my way to and from Toys R Us, where I bought various toy cars and gaming devices. Nowadays, daughter prefers driving real cars. We've been waiting a long time for change to come around here, but it will come soon, joining the Oxygen residential towers and the mixture of residential blocks on the east side of Great Ancoats Street. Here's how the Manchester Digital Campus will look from the north. The project will house 7,000 new civil service jobs. There will also be a new 2.25 acre park. That's the equivalent of 1.5 football fields. Designed by Planet, who are also working on Liverpool Central Docks and the Albert Dock. Planning documents were submitted by Ewan Kelly Property Solutions on behalf of Manchester City Council. Now we are looking at the prestigious residential development No. 1 Port Street. Developer Select Properties, architects Simpson Huff. Let's flash back to the beginning of 2024. The concrete core had appeared, and by the end of March, at least 10 of the 33 stories were in place. Topping out was announced in the media on the 11th of November 2024. But what exactly does that mean, topping out? Well, according to Wikipedia, it's a builder's rite, that's R-I-T-E, or ceremony, marking the completion of the structure of a building. The tradition goes back to medieval times, with connections to Scandinavia, where a pine tree was hoisted to the top of wood-frame buildings. It was partly for good luck, but there was also a functional purpose. When the pine needles fell off, they knew the wood frame had cured or dried out, and they could start to enclose the building. Is this Ancoats? No, Norway. Nowadays, the topping out ceremony is used for PR purposes and publicity photos. Now we move further up Great Ancoats Street to a very important proposed development which by the end of 2024 has not yet received planning permission. The building will appear on this block where there are buildings dating back to the 18th century. The developers propose to retain some of these buildings but not all of them. Let's take a look at the visualizations. On the right is Lever Street. We can see how the proposed new office building rises up above the restored facades on Lever Street. It has 18 stories with rounded corners echoing the Express building diagonally opposite. It's unlike any other building I can think of in Manchester. It has a profile which sticks further and further out on one side. Cantilevered, that's the correct word. This will provide increased floor space on the upper stories. It's like a building upside down. It's designed by Howells Architects. So, is this a good design? I've been wondering if it's possible to draw up an Aiden Eyewitness Code of Merit that can identify good buildings. Buildings with design features that would attract praise rather than criticism, especially in the comments section of this channel. I'll talk about that a bit later. Retaining these old facades, I would say, is definitely a plus point and worthy of praise, as is echoing the curved corners of the Express building. Let's look again at the Lever Street side and see how the house on the corner containing Bem Brazil restaurant and the neighbouring red brick facades will all be renovated and enhanced, with the new building rising up behind. But on the south side of the site, these older buildings will not be retained. The developers say it's not practical to save the ones on this side. But the Victorian Society say that the demolition would cause significant harm, as it would result in the loss of the former Lander Cakes public house, now Bem Brazil. The pub played a historically significant role as the founding place of the world's first working-class party, the National Charter Association, in 1840. I've fact-checked that and it's true. But as we can see in the plans, the Bem Brazil, former Lander Cakes pub, is to be retained. Or do they mean that the internal structure of the building inside should also be retained? The media reports don't make this clear. The decision is to be delayed until the 23rd of January 2025 so that planning decision makers can visit the site. Well, I did a site visit, you've been looking at it. The scheme is named NXQ and the developers are London-based Solar Group. According to their website, the scheme will target a BREEAM excellent rating. More on BREEAM later. I previously noticed this undistinguished looking building from, I think, the late 60s or early 70s. At one time this would have been regarded as fresh and new, the architects would have taken great pride in it, but now it's clapped out, outmoded, surplus to requirements, and soon to be torn down. Will anyone shed a tear? And on Nicholas Road in the well-loved district of Chorlton, the shopping centre and office building, Graham House, are also going to be demolished. The site has been fenced off, and on the boards they've featured local businesses with some great photographs. I can personally recommend King B Records, the legendary record shop. We love being in Chorlton because of the great cross-section of people. That's Les, proprietor of King B, since September 1987. The sign says, "Please do not feed the pigeons. It is a health hazard and a littering offence." At the top, the name Graham House. The building is probably a health hazard itself by today's standards. And who was Graham? It seems nobody knows. Graham House was completed around 1971. It's one of those nondescript office blocks of which there are many around Manchester, but it will soon be a memory. Click the link below to find a blog with old photographs. The shopping centre was never highly regarded and seemed to me to be out of character with the rest of Chorlton, which combines 19th century architectural charm with 21st century liberal lifestyles. I've shopped many times in that courtyard, but these are the last shots I'll take of it. PJ Livesey are drawing up the plans, and this is how things are set to look in the future. There will be shops and apartments. And so from Barlow Moor Road, we crossfade to Rochdale Road, where a new Premier Inn has commenced construction. A groundbreaking event was held on Wednesday, the 16th of October, 2024. The groundbreaking or sod cutting or sod turning ceremony marks the first day of construction. Previously, in many cultures, there was a religious element. Nowadays, it's a photo opportunity and PR event, like topping out. The new Premier Inn Hotel will have 229 rooms and 10 stories. Expected completion during 2026. And right next door to it, there's an abandoned church with a very distinctive facade that's going to be incorporated into a new residential development. The Particular Baptist Chapel. It's a good few years now since worshippers gathered here, and it was thought it would be torn down. However, it will be retained as part of a new residential building. The church was designed by J. Willis & Son and is actually a 20th century building. It was completed in 1907. The new residential tower is designed by Hodder & Partners. Developers are Synergy, that's with a C. The traditional place of Christian worship will soon be transformed into a place of wellness. As soon as people enter, the emphasis will be on the well-being and health, both physical and mental, of the people living here and their visitors. There will be a gym, health and well-being facilities, though no swimming pool, as I'm told, people don't tend to use them. The Part 20, Part 23-storey tower will contain 133 apartments from 2 to 4 bedrooms. I was lucky enough to be shown round the interior of the abandoned church, so many thanks to the people at Synergy for giving me this opportunity, and I'll be returning to this project as it progresses. Now let's go down to Salford Central, where it's been announced that the station will be renovated. There's an old photograph of mine from 1998. Those 150 class units are still in use. But for me, the most striking element of Salford Central is this superb mural created by kelso.com with Evan. It's a masterpiece. You have to see it with your own eyes. I've removed the posts in image editing so we can see it in all its glory. Salford Central was renovated in 2007, but now a new renovation needs to go ahead, costing £10 million. That's round about the cost of 2 of those 195 class Spanish-made 4-car trains in the mural. It's reported the station will close from 10th of February to the 21st of April 2025, and on other dates. There will be a new ticket office, accessible toilets, braille maps, ramp improvements, customer information points, and B-Network branding. Here's an archive photo of mine going back to 1998, showing the entrance area before the glass windows were installed. Now we go from Salford Central back towards the city centre. That's the Civil Justice Centre, completed in 2007, one of my favourite buildings in Manchester. As I mentioned, I would like to try and draw up a code of merit to identify buildings that we can all agree are good, maybe with some kind of rating. The trouble is, it seems there is no general agreement on what constitutes an attractive modern building. I noticed that several of my favourite modern buildings in Manchester are on the ugliest buildings in Manchester list, as voted for by the general public. Anyhow, I was going to walk across the Spinningfields footbridge, but it's closed and I can't find the reason why. Maybe safety reasons? For our next project, we need to float down the River Irwell, just short of a mile, past the busy Edgerton Street. That's part of the A57 from Mancunian Way leading to the motorway M602. There's my photo from 2002. And here it is, Embassy Village. On-site works began in November 2024 to build this facility that will house up to 40 homeless men in units built under the railway viaduct. It's run by the Embassy charity, which provides wraparound support. And by the way, women have to be housed in separate, more discreet accommodation, more on the website, link below. 50 local businesses have partnered with Embassy to provide services on a pro bono basis. That means it's for the public good, and therefore provided free of charge. I noticed they didn't use the word home for Embassy Village. That's because the aim is to help their clients so that they will be able to rent their own home in the future. And that brings me back to the question of the words we use for the place where we live. So here's my quick editorial. Developers often say that a building will offer, say, 500 homes. Maybe because home covers apartment and house. But I think the word home is too emotive. Home sweet home. This house is not a home. Another word is flat, as in a block of flats, but that sounds less posh than apartment. On Stockport's Weir Mill development, they've used the word gaff. Now, gaff makes me think of London. My gaff's on the High Street above the laundrette. It sounds the opposite of posh. Imagine reading the glossy brochure. This new development of luxury, 5-bedroom, split-level, executive gaffs. No, it doesn't sound right to me. And there's another word that's used, especially in the headlines, resi, short for residential development. I think that sounds like something you'd hear in Liverpool. Have you seen that new resi on Leeds Street? What about unit? The development has 500 private units. Not emotive, but I think okay when the building is under construction. I think that's what we should use, because after all, a house or apartment is not a home until people have moved in and made it their home. Homes, flats, apartments, gaffs, units, dwellings, pads, properties, resi. Any thoughts? We return to Albert Bridge, and that's 4 New Bailey, designed by sometimes controversial Make architects. 4 New Bailey is one of my favourite recent buildings in Manchester. Not everyone agrees. It was announced on the 9th of December 2024 that BT are looking for a firm to sublease 3 floors it no longer needs. The reason? Hybrid working. We take a short walk now to Hardman Boulevard in the Spinningfields district, and just across from Paddington Bear, it's 1 Hardman Boulevard, Manchester's largest office building, currently standing empty. NatWest Bank moved out, and it's going to be renovated. Interesting how relatively new buildings no longer fulfill modern requirements. It was first built in 2004. The building will be renamed the Metropolitan. Simpson Huff are leading the design. They are aiming for BREEAM excellent rating. There it is again. So what does it mean? Well, BREEAM stands for Building Research Establishment Environmental Assessment Method, and is a way of measuring the sustainability of master plan projects, infrastructure and buildings. Energy, land use, ecology, water, health and well-being, pollution, transport, materials, waste management are all assessed and given a percentage. Excellent is 70% plus. So maybe I could have something like this for my code of merit. Locally based, of course, we could have the coveted Liverpool BB Gold rating. That means it's a boss building. And the prestigious Manchester DG rating. That means it's dead good. For top class buildings, we could have DDG and DDDG ratings. Oh, sorry, that's the right photo. And for the not so pretty, we could have a BOTL award, but actually I only want to have positive ratings. And now on to our final project. It was reported on the 19th of December 2024 that St Michael's 1 has secured a mystery F&B tenant who will take up the last available space in the building for F&B. F&B? Food and beverage. It's reported that the office block has already exceeded the top level of rent in the city centre. There was an event here in June 2024 to mark not the topmost point being reached, but the deepest point in the construction. Ex-footballer Gary Neville and others involved in the project stood for a photo opportunity in the huge hole in the ground. Manchester's deepest ever excavation, from where the 41-storey St Michael's 2 will rise up into the sky. So will the new tower cast a shadow over Albert Square? We'll see. The renovation of the town hall is proceeding and taking somewhat longer than expected. So I hope you enjoyed this rundown of some of the projects that have been in the news in the final quarter of 2024 in Manchester. And if you want to support my work in documenting the ongoing development of Manchester and Liverpool, you can buy me a coffee, and I'm going to be offering other possibilities. More info in upcoming videos. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, etc. Post a comment. I always appreciate your comments, which often provide valuable additional information and sometimes corrections. So thanks for sharing in advance. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen und auf Wiedersehen in Manchester.